When it comes to investing, it is evident that institutions and businesses act differently from the average ordinary retail investor, meaning that they do not panic sell when markets decline. It's not the end of the world, in their opinion. They don't presume that simply because the price is acting in a certain direction one day, it will continue to do so indefinitely. However, this is precisely how the average retail investor reacts to markets in this area. As I'm recording this, it's evident that the price of XRP has significantly decreased since yesterday and is still approaching $3 this morning. For that reason, I propose that I open that video and state that it has dropped to $3.05. By the time you're reading this, I'm not sure what it is, but XRP did indeed see a price decline, and the entire asset class did as well. This issue is not unique to XRP. I brought this up to emphasize that companies and organizations investing in XRP are aware that it is a winner, an early winner in the cryptocurrency industry. They recognize that since the entire crypto asset class is still in its infancy, XRP will only increase in value over time as more investors join the market. Although I am aware that it has been about 16 years, very few people have ever previously owned cryptocurrency. The percentage of people who have ever purchased XRP is far lower than 1%, almost no one. Congratulations then for being the first to learn about it and act upon it. And I mean that with all my heart. All of us are just ordinary individuals. I'm just a normal guy. You are ordinary people. All of us are attempting to improve our financial circumstances. And in the history of our species, there has never been a better means to accomplish this. Crypto is unlike any other investment vehicle. This is unlike anything that has ever existed. And thanks to the emergence of cryptocurrency, we are living through this. This is our chance. It's amazing. It turns out that the US government is no longer attacking XRP because of the equal playing field in the cryptocurrency space. And it turns out that many corporations want to invest in XRP, specifically now that the battle against cryptocurrency is finished in the US, which has the world's largest capital market. And here's another example of that. Check out this headline. A corporate XRP Treasury program worth up to $20 million has been announced by Nature's Miracle Holding Inc. It should be noted that this publicly traded corporation is developing an XRP Treasury. Therefore, XRP is being used as a Treasury reserve asset. That is the long-term, or more precisely, long-term goal of this. Therefore, if you're freaking out because the market is declining and the price of XRP is declining to any extent, know that the company's leaders don't care. You do. They don't, because they are long-term focused, and they are aware that this is typical in the cryptocurrency space, as I have discussed in recent videos. Furthermore, it doesn't imply that XRP is doomed, dead, or about to drop to zero or anything. Simply put, when this price action occurs, people are emotionally impacted. However, do you believe that this publicly listed corporation is trembling? The day the market began to plummet, they made this announcement. Do you believe they care? I'm willing to bet, they say. They won't give a damn, in my opinion. Why would they? Businesses and institutions are aware of this and do not react emotionally. Here, it's quite clear. Therefore, look at this. Additionally, there are a ton of businesses, which I will discuss in more detail later in this video. Numerous businesses have declared their intention to build or have already launched XRP treasuries. Therefore, XRP is being used as a treasury reserve asset. And since President Trump won the election and became president, they have continued to do this. All of this is taking place for that purpose. Furthermore, XRP was already expected to rise. The way things have gone down since the war on crypto is over will make it much more valuable and much faster. And in a world where there are level playing fields, I have consistently stated that XRP will completely dominate. This was true even during the nearly 5-year lawsuit. And why? There are numerous explanations, but it simply works. What Bitcoin cannot do, it does. It operates as intended. Bitcoin was created to be used as money, so you can use it as such if you so choose. Peer-to-peer currency exchange is how Bitcoin is intended to operate. That is what Satoshi Nakamoto wrote in the white paper. Do you recall that? Because XRP is incredibly costly and transactions are delayed, it is completely unable to accomplish it. That is literally possible with XRP. As it happens, market players do value that. Additionally, many companies use XRP for a variety of purposes. Anyway, the following is how this paragraph reads. Take a look at this. Leading vertical farming technology business, Nature's Miracle Holding Inc. said today that it is starting a corporate XRP treasury program worth up to $20 million. And people, I think it's hilarious that they made this announcement on the day that XRP was collapsing along with the rest of the market. It doesn't really matter. I am aware that they simply don't give a damn. In any case, the business will finance its working capital requirements and the acquisition of XRP with the money from the equity financing from GHS Investments, for which the SEC recently deemed a registration statement on Form S-1 to be effective. This is the official press release, by the way. Folks, this is a calculated move that puts Nature's Miracle in a position to become one of the first publicly listed firms to use the third largest cryptocurrency, XRP, as its primary treasury strategy. Yes, exactly. Bitcoin was not chosen as a primary treasury approach. Gold was not picked by them. They made no other selections. XRP was chosen as their primary treasury strategy. Therefore, if you believe that XRP has a long-term value, it will be worth much more in the future. Just know that successful companies, wealthy individuals, and a variety of institutions share your opinion. Many others share your viewpoint, and it's clear that XRP is a pioneer in the cryptocurrency market thus far. Therefore, I think it makes sense to take this approach and make XRP a central treasury strategy. How come you wouldn't? It's preferable to carry cash. That's very certain. Batman, what a sacred debasement. In any case, the press release goes on. The purchase of XRP tokens as long-term strategic reserves will be the initiative's main goal. Long-term people aren't worried about the here and now. I swear to you. In order to produce yield and engagement within the Ripple ecosystem, long-term strategic reserves and the implementation of staking mechanisms are necessary. There's nothing particular about that, but I can't imagine that in an official press release they wouldn't understand the distinction between XRP and Ripple, so I assume there's some kind of arrangement for moving money with Ripple. But I'll laugh uncontrollably if that's the case. Technically speaking, I suppose you should put an asterisk next to that one. In any case, when the firm decides to issue securities through such a financing arrangement, Nature's Miracle will use a portion of the equity funding that may be obtained via the S-1 registration statement to initially finance the acquisition of XRP in order to support this project. The business may then use a combination of structured finance tools, strategic placements, and stock offerings to expand its use of XRP. According to James Lee, CEO of Nature's Miracle, more organizations are embracing cryptocurrencies as a primary treasury holding since President Trump signed the Genesis Act on July 18, 2025. And here's another one of his quotes. Since XRP speeds up and lowers the cost of cross-border payments, we can see its enormous potential. XRP is already being used by numerous well-known financial organizations, including American Express and Banco Santander. We think that the company and our shareholders will gain from the implementation of an XRP treasury program. End quote. And what do you know? So far, at least, that has been absolutely true. Look at this headline, please. The story was being covered by them. The source is BN Crypto. After a California company announces the XRP treasury plan, its stock jumps 150%. That's correct, people. When Nature's Miracle made this announcement, its stock price increased by 150%. You enjoy seeing it, I see. And it's amusing again. On a day when XRP was declining, that occurred. Stocks continued to rise. People understand. Hurry up. It's quite clear. There have also been other businesses. Look at this, please. To emphasize that you are not alone if you believe that XRP makes sense, allow me to provide you with a few examples. People with intelligence, money, and achievement, as well as companies and organizations, concur that XRP makes sense. And the obviousness of it is overwhelming. XRP's continued existence despite its onslaught. The SEC's strike was the strongest one you could have launched if you wanted to destroy XRP. The worst you could have done was that. Furthermore, it didn't even momentarily remove XRP from the top 10 coins by market capitalization. For a few years, it did artificially decrease the price, but not enough to remove it from the top 10. And to be honest, I think that's amazing. Take a look at this headline. This dates back to May 29th. With the support of the Saudi royal, Vivo Power raises $121 million to introduce its XRP treasury strategy. At this point, we learned that Saudi royalty has owned XRP for about 10 years. Additionally, they're now introducing a treasury strategy for XRP. You will enjoy seeing it. Take a look at that. $121 million. There are others besides that. This one dates back to May 12th. Wellgistics of Florida uses a $50 million credit facility to implement XRP for healthcare payments. For this reason, this corporation uses it both as a treasury reserve asset and functionally in internal payment processes. Thus, both. Friends, that's real utility. This is a headline from this year's June 4th. Following its SEC filing for a $300 million XRP strategic reserve, the stock of the Chinese company Webis surges. Yes, exactly. A strategic XRP reserve of $300 million. Additionally, this company's stock price performed well. Following the election, all of this took place. We're seeing all of this because of how the election turned out. This is good for holders of XRP. XRP prevailed. XRP is already victorious. All we need to do is wait and see how the price rises. Here's another. This year, June 12th, is the date. To create an XRP treasury, Singapore's Trident Digital is aiming to raise an enormous $500 million. Another business that has a treasury of XRP. Here's another illustration. It's possible that this was the first one ever, at least the first one I remember seeing. It dates back to December 6th, and I recall talking about this at the time. And I was so thrilled about this because, my goodness, whoa, I've always thought this may occur. In fact, it did. A level playing field and a US government that wasn't targeting cryptocurrency were all we needed. Here you are too. This is the headline then. XRP joins Worksport and BC Budco. Investments corporate treasury reserves. That is really amazing. You enjoy watching it. Here's one final example. This is from this year's May 29th. In the third quarter of 2025, Alt Capital Group, a subsidiary of Hyperscale Data, intends to introduce an XRP lending platform for publicly traded US companies. Thus, that is an extra application for XRP, but it is also being utilized. Additionally, XRP serves as a treasury reserve asset. This is serious business, people. We chose a winner. We just plain and simple did. By the time you're reading this, I'm not sure if the price of XRP has recovered or if it's even dropping or what. It makes no difference. This is a fleeting moment. This trend will only continue to rise. Nothing could be clearer. That is pretty much a given in my opinion. No one, including myself, is certain of what will happen with the price. However, we're talking about probabilities, and as an XRP holder, my conviction has never been stronger. I do not provide financial advice. Please refrain from purchasing or selling anything as a result of my words. That is a really, really awful idea.